I was on Shaq's podcast, and I was telling a story about how Monique took my Richard Pryor story on Oprah. And everyone, not everyone, but I heard people saying, Cap, that story didn't happen. It's not true. Show the picture. Well, I'm going to tell the story for those of you that didn't hear it on Shaq's podcast, and then we're going to show the picture. Just so you know, there's no cap. I got no reason to lie. I got no reason to add any extra sauce to the story. But here's the story. When I first got to L.A. on Tuesday nights, Fat Tuesday, you wouldn't know who you see. That's where I met Shaq. And you never knew who you were going to see in the audience. And one night, Richard Pryor was in the audience. And we got wind he was coming. Everybody said, Richard's coming tonight. If you ever been to the Comedy Store on Sunset, the main room, they got these big booths. And you never knew who would be in those booths. In the late 90s, you'd see Denzel, you'd see Shaq, you'd see Kobe, you'd see Bernie Mac. You never know who you'd see in these booths. Behind the scenes people, you just never knew. So this night they said Richard's coming. I just happened to be going up that night, so I'm excited. So automatically, I'm nervous because to me it'd be like me playing ball and Jordan walking in the gym. You gonna play extra hard when Michael Jordan's watching or LeBron James is watching. So that was the equivalent for us 5-6 comics that went up that night. And I was in a perfect time slot. I was right in the middle. I wasn't first. I wasn't last. I was second or third. I was in the primo spot on a show like that. So I go up. I get done. I'm backstage. One of the people that with Richard, I don't want to say his assistant or any, I don't know. This guy comes up and goes, "Hey, Mr. Pryor would like to meet you." And I go, "Oh, snap." So I go over, and they told everybody before he got there, no pictures, leave him alone. He doesn't, he wants to watch stand-up. So I go sit down. People move. Like I sit down in his booth with them. And I guess who's the guy that invented Good Times? Hold on. Good Times and the Jeffersons. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. Norman Lear. So Norman Lear was there with Richard that night. I got a picture with him. I don't know. No, I'm not Norman Lear. No, that's not who was with him. Was it Norman Lear? I don't think it was. No. Maybe it was. Hold on. The guy did Good News too. Hold on. Good News, the guy Tory sitcom. Good News sitcom. Let me see. Okay. I'll tell you who was with him that night. I got to do some digging, but I'm going to find. Created. Good News sitcom. Once the overview. Hold on. I'm going to figure this out. Oh my gosh. It was only on one season on UPN. Ed Weinberg. That's who was with him. Ed Weinberg. I said Norman Lear. Ed Weinberg was with him. Ed Weinberg, he's known for Mary Tyler Moore Show, Taxi, but that's who was with Richard Pryor that night, Ed Weinberg. So Ed Weinberg was in the booth. Richard Pryor was there. So I sit down next to Richard, and he's talking real light. He's not loud. And he got my ear, and he was like, "You're funny. You're funny." And he was like, "Don't ever change." And he's talking real soft. I said, "All right." And then he goes, and then he didn't ask, but somebody with him asked. He goes, "Can it's weird." They was like, "Can Mr. Pryor get a pic?" And I was like, "Duh." So I was like, "Can I get a pic?" So they was like, "Yeah." So this is before iPhones. I always carried a camera in my car because I was new to L.A. And I was always amazed who I was running into. Magic Johnson. People, you just ran into the most random people at the Comedy Store. So I run to my car. I parked at Pink Dot. On Shaq's podcast, I said Pink's. That's the hot dog place. Pink Dot was like a 7-Eleven a block away from the Comedy Store. And you could park behind there, but you just had to buy something. You had to show you had a purchase or receipt. So I'd always go on Tuesday nights. I'd park my truck at Pink Dot, get a sub sandwich, put it in the back of my car, that was dinner, and I didn't have to pay $20 to park or valet. I didn't have it like that. So that was my dinner and parking. So I always go to Pink Duck, get my sub sandwich, and I could keep my car parked there for a couple hours. So I ran down to my car. I grab my camera. I bring it back. Richard got his guy to take a picture, and I got a picture of my camera. And when I came back with my camera, I sat back down, and one of the guys tried to grab me. One of the security guys was like, "Hey, we said no pictures." And I was like, No, he wants a picture of me. And then his people was like, "Nah, he's good. So I got the picture, right? I got a picture with Ed Weinberg that night, and I got a picture of Richard Pryor. I'm not sure where the picture of Ed Weinberg is, but I still have the picture of Richard Pryor. I'm going to show it after this story so you guys know it's valid. I get done, and that was my story. And I was like, oh, man, if I ever get on Oprah Winfrey, I'm going to tell this story. This is my story, that Richard Pryor said that I'm valid, that I'm funny, and he told me don't change. So I'm never going to change my personality, my things on things. Because, yeah, I tell a lot of black-white jokes. But Richard Pryor said it's funny. So a couple years later, 3-4 years later, I'm watching Oprah Winfrey. Monique's on there. And Oprah, I'm watching on TV. And Oprah goes, when did you know? When did you know you had it? When did you know this is what you're supposed to be doing? This is your calling. And Monique was like, Oprah, I was on stage one night, and Richard Pryor was in the audience. And when the show was over, he said, I want to meet you. And he pulled me aside, and he got my ear, and he said, don't change. Don't ever change. And I'm sitting there going, what the They just took my Oprah story, word for word. And as I'm watching it, I'm sitting there going, no. As soon as Oprah asked that question and Monique said Richard Pryor was in the audience, it was like I had a premonition. It was like I saw it coming. I go, there's no way. There's no way this is happening. And then it just kept getting worse because it was almost verbatim my story. I was on stage. Richard was in the audience. Richard asked to meet me after the show. Richard whispered in my ear, don't change. Don't ever change. And I went, that was the exact story on the show that I always told myself I was going to tell that story on. I held it. I held that story. Not like I had a lot of interview requests, but every week I'm on the road on radio shows, on local TV shows, and they always ask those questions. They ask those questions. Did you always know you were funny? When did you know? Never told that story. Held it. And Monique told that story on Oprah. The show. I would have never told that story on another talk show. I was waiting to get on Oprah Winfrey. I always thought I would be on Oprah. And then never happened. I swear to God, if that TV show with me and Quincy Jones would have went through, I would have been on Oprah. But I never ended up getting on Oprah, and I never told the story. And here we are 20 years later, and I'm telling it on a podcast. Shaq's podcast, and now my podcast. Here's the picture. Told you. I told you that's a true story. How dare you guys think I'm lying and making that up? Oh, my God.